Small group math instruction allows you to truly differentiate your lessons. Breaking your math block up into key areas is only the first step to implementing guided math. Next, you have to plan what you're going to teach when your students arrive at your small group table. In today's episode, I'm going to share how I organize the lesson inside my math small groups. Stay tuned. What's kicking, educational rock stars? Welcome back to another episode of Teaching Made Easy. I'm the Center Fairy, your ultimate source into the wonderful world of simple classroom systems that actually work so that you can finally get back to what you love, teaching. If this is your first time joining me here on the channel, be sure you hit that like and that subscribe button and click that bell so that you get notified when I go live or upload a new video here on the channel. It's no secret that I love a good small group instruction plan, especially for math. It allows you to offer targeted instruction on that particular group's ability level. By utilizing small group instruction, this allows you to help your students learn and practice key math skills. Your students have the opportunity to engage in meaningful discussions about the strategies they are using to solve the problems they're working on. This also helps students who have difficulty putting their ideas into words, and it allows them to hear their peers think through these concepts. It also allows you the chance to clear up any misconceptions or struggles that your students are showing. When you teach a whole group lesson, you may not even know that your student is confused, and you may not catch it while you're teaching the lesson. Often you don't even see the confusion until you review their work or assess their learning at the end. It happens even to the best of us. I've also found that students are much more confident in their math skills when they're able to get that one-on-one time with their teacher and they get in the moment help when they are confused by a skill or problem. A few weeks ago, I talked about how I break up my math block, and you can check out that episode by clicking on the cards above or the link in the description and watch that episode. But a question that I get all the time is, now that I've got my math block scheduled, what do I teach them when they come to my table? When planning a lesson for my small groups in math, I always start with the end in mind, kind of like reverse engineering the lesson. I'm going to take a look first at the standard that I'm going to be teaching. Then I'm going to jump to the end of the unit assessment and see what specific vocabulary or methods that student is ultimately going to need to know. I also look at the end of the year state assessments and make sure that the provided curriculum aligns with the vocabulary used and the methods, and I'm going to adjust it if needed. Next, I'm going to break up each standard into 3 pieces: concrete, pictures, and abstract. This approach allows me to differentiate my lessons based on what my students in each group need. I always move my students through all the stages, but how quickly a group moves through the stage is based on that group's needs. In the concrete stage of the lesson, I'm modeling the skill using hands-on manipulatives and allowing students to use manipulatives to follow along and work through the problems and skills. We are not doing any pencil work at this stage. It's completely hands-on with concrete objects and verbal. Next, we move into the picture stage. In this stage, students are going to see pictures of the manipulatives and solve problems based on what they see. This may include some pencil work, but if needed, students will verbalize their learning and I can take notes in my teacher notebook. Last, but definitely not least, is the abstract stage. This is the ultimate goal of each lesson on a standard. My goal is to get my students to the point where they can use numbers and symbols to solve their problems. So how does this look with an actual skill, like place value? First, I'll find the standard for the grade level I'm teaching. For this example, we're going to use the first grade standard. Now, let me read the standard to you. The student is expected to use concrete and pictorial models to compose and decompose numbers to 120 in more than one way as to how many hundreds, so many tens, and so many ones. Interestingly enough, this standard already has 2 of the stages in it verbatim. If I look at the end of the unit assessment and end of year assessment, I can see that the ultimate goal for a first grade student is to be able to look at a number, the abstract, and determine how many hundreds, tens, and ones. To introduce this skill, I first want to use the concrete. I'm going to use something like popsicle sticks and a work mat that's divided like into ones, tens, and hundreds. And I'm going to build groups of 1, 10, and 100. I would compose and decompose these numbers with students using their own mats and sticks to follow along and then demonstrate their learning. Once I felt like my group was ready, we would move into the picture stage. In this stage, I like to keep the manipulatives on hand in case students still need to refer back to that concrete stage. But the ultimate goal here is to have my students be able to look at the picture of the base 10 blocks, like 5 10 sticks and 6 ones cubes, to understand that the picture represents 5 10s and 6 ones. Then I may have my students draw the 10s and 1s on a piece of paper or their work mat to represent what they see. This stage helps students to visualize the problem and gain a deeper understanding of the skill or strategy. Now, this standard doesn't specify students being able to move to the abstract, but we know that that's the ultimate goal. So if my group of students is ready, we're just going to move them into using the abstract, which is the numbers or symbols. In this stage, they may start ordering numbers, decomposing numbers into expanded form, or composing numbers from the expanded form. Now, using this method of concrete, picture, and abstract, I can meet the students where they're at and differentiate my small groups as needed. Now, every standard is going to go through all 3 of these stages. I never skip a stage. Even if I have a group of students who is already comfortable and solid on the concrete, it's never a bad idea to just review it. Now, one very important part of my small group instruction is my anecdotal notes. I always have my notebook handy to jot down notes based on what I'm seeing when students are implementing strategies at each of these stages to solve problems. This formal assessment allows me to intervene when a student is struggling or give a challenge to students who are moving quickly through the skill. I'm also able to easily move students among groups and switch their groups throughout the year. While I love small groups, I strongly believe that you can't teach in small groups unless your centers are running smoothly. The first step to this is getting those centers organized. That's why I created my 3 steps to organizing your math and literacy centers, and you can grab that guide and included labels by clicking the link in the show notes. Now, if you're teaching in small groups, you're also going to need good math centers that your students can work on independently while you teach in small groups. Our math centers are bundled for grades K through 5 and include simple yet engaging activities that follow predictable patterns and allow your students to work independently without interrupting you constantly at your table. You can check those out in our shop, and we have them for hands-on and digital formats, and I will leave a link to those in the show notes as well. Now, if you're looking for more tips, strategies, and simple systems to take back into your classroom to make your teacher life easier, check out the videos on your screen. Thanks for watching, and keep being an educational rock star.